Just following up on the V question, she was talking about, you were mentioning projects that try to get it right and projects that don't care. The X-Files was really good about some things, not so good about others, but I have a colleague who is a science fiction writer. I have a PhD in microbiology, and one of my colleagues is also a science fiction writer. And he has mentioned that there are some groups in the industry who are trying to get a collection of scientists together that they can bounce these ideas off of. Are you aware of that? And is that true? Is that actually going to happen?
We are aware, and part of it. The Science and Entertainment Exchange was funded by NSF or NIH, I don't remember. And they just recently appointed a new director. But effectively, if you are a science professional and you're interested in this, go online, find the Science and Entertainment Exchange, email them and say, put me on the list. And then if a creator, it basically says, well, I'm stuck at some point. I don't know whether this planet would make sense, or I don't know whether this bacteria makes sense, or this is possible. They can email the exchange, and the exchange will pair them with a scientist. And I think that's an extremely valuable initiative. That's one that I know of. There may be others.
Call on me, damn it.
Okay, the call on me, damn it girl, please. The loud girl.
I'm impatient. So, you were talking about the prosthetics, that are controlled by your thoughts, prosthetic limbs, things like that. I know I read an article in Discover a while ago about machines that, you move, machine moves, somewhere on the other side of, the country, you move, the machine moves. So how long is it till we get giant mechs and battle suits?
Oh, okay.
Well, they're already working on the exoskeleton power suits. Giant mechs is a little more of an engineering problem.
There's a combination there. Yeah, we would need what we call in engineering unobtainium to build machines that are truly gigantic.
They don't have to be gigantic, they just have to be mechs.
Well, if you just want mechs, there are sort of exoskeleton legs that are designed to help soldiers move things in the battlefield. There are sort of exoskeleton suits that are designed to increase the wearer's strength. Now, most of those work right now, they're designed effectively to just move as you move, instead of being controlled like these, but there's no reason in the future that that technology wouldn't be combined. Now, the real question, though, I think that you're asking is, how soon will it be when you get a giant battle suit? As far as I'm concerned, the only important part of that answer is after I get a gigantic robot battle suit.
But what if I have to pilot it while naked?
That's really between you and your battlesuit designer.
So there's a lot of interaction between humans and aliens. Aliens eat humans, humans give aliens viruses, they have sex. How likely is something like that ever to happen? Surely the genetic system that aliens would use would be so different that they wouldn't be able to digest us.
There are a number of, this is one of those arguments that goes back and forth. When we were talking about what alien life would be like and how close it would be to us, there's the question of whether it's even carbon-based or not. There are good arguments for saying that it should be carbon-based because a lot of the other molecules that we find wouldn't make good DNA, for example, or good genetic material. But in many ways, that may just be a failure of imagination on our part, because we're kind of like, well, you can't make DNA that looks exactly like my DNA with that molecule. So I think that really, that question is one that we're going to be talking about until we actually discover aliens. And then we're going to continue to be talking about it because, well, is it possible to find aliens that aren't like us? And the world is great.
I think there's some decent counterexamples too, like War of the Worlds, right? I mean, they open up the hatches and all the aliens die because they had a virus, right? So they were clearly incompatible with aliens, or at least the things that were on Earth. So there's a lot of examples both ways.
The viruses are like species specific, so going for some other seems unlikely.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't expect that viruses would kill off aliens, but bacteria could potentially be a really serious issue. If I were the first to visit another planet, I would want to laminate myself.
So my question is about chimeric creatures and artists' imagination, the relationship between those two. Because I've been, walking around downstairs. There are all kinds of creatures, ugly ones, hideous ones, really like strong-looking, like action heroes, but they are anthropomorphic, but not necessarily human. They're cute creatures. They're like small, plushy ones. So apparently, artist imagination is like working towards creating new creatures. So you talked about the relationship between science fiction, its role in communicating science and raising cultural questions such as bioethics, right? And we now know that playing with the human genome or human body is kind of a taboo. Like we can't really splice and like make superhumans or anything like that because it's not allowed actually. But we can play with animals and we can do whatever we want with animals. So do you think that in the near future, because it's already happening now, we're planting chips in fly brains or monkeys, there's like a lot of research going on in that area, and we've made chimeras, animal chimeras. What do you think about the future of the animal pet, the near future of the animal pet as a human scientist, because it seems to me that it's an area where artificial information could be transferred to living things.
I'm going to repeat the question. I should have been doing that the whole time. I apologize. So the question was, what about sort of chimeric or genetically engineered pets? And my first question, or my first initial response to that is I feel like we've been doing that for a really long time. We've just been doing it very slowly by the domestication of animals. So we had a particular technique, and if you consider lapdogs and wolves, right? How different some of the domesticated animals look from the animals that we see. Same thing with food, natural corn versus the corn that we're used to eating. That sort of manipulation has been occurring for thousands of years. The question really is, how do we apply these new tools, which allow us to move faster and potentially deeper, though I think that's arguable. And I think that things like that will happen, but I do know that we do genetically modify animals, for example, in the labs, but it's not the easiest thing in the world. That there are groups on campus, for example, that anytime you want to do something like that, your protocol goes to them, and sometimes they say no. You have to have a fairly good reason for why you want to do that experimentally. I think it'll happen. I don't necessarily think that we'll have, fish with wings or anything like that, but I do think that it will occur eventually.
It's a question of ethics, and it's a question of feasibility, and like, why would you want to do it in the first place, right? If it's just because people want to mess around to be artistic, that seems a little weird to me. But these technologies are available, and if people want to utilize them, they might be able to. There's companies that already clone pets, so if your dog dies, you can clone your dog. So this is not out of the question. It's more a, should I do this, not, am I gonna do it?
I would love a hyperallergenic cat. Trust me.
Okay, next one. Yeah, sweatshirt.
Okay, I just had a question. Two of the most impactful technologies in science fiction I ever remember were the replicator from Star Trek, and which did away with currency and a few other things in human society.
Oh, physics question. Let's answer this wrong.
And the Ansible from Orson Scott Card's interview. So I'm just curious if you guys can think of another very socially relevant technology that you wouldn't think would change the fate of everything. But
Email.
The internet is a great technology. Yeah. So, I'm sorry, can you just repeat what the exact question is?
Just basically say that the two technologies I found had the most social impact were the replicator and the Ansible. But I'm interested if you guys have noticed anything else like that.
Technologies
within science fiction
or social impacts. The Ansible from Ender's Game and the replicators from Star Trek. The question is, what other technologies do we think that are sort of at that scale, at that level in impacting society? I'm going to be old school, and I'm going to say plumbing. To be completely honest, I think that has impacted our ability to gather together in groups larger than we ever have before. If you go back to the writings where, really large cities, before they had worked out sewers, a lot of the writings were actually questioning, can human beings live in groups this large? That was a serious question that people were asking. And I think that living in groups that closely packed actually allows us to move faster in developing new technologies. I think that's probably one of the biggest society-changing tech I can think of.
I mean, we think about biology all the time, but I think that personalized medicine is going to be enormous. Like, the more and more you figure out about the genome, the more you can really tailor treatments to specific individuals. The way that medicine works now is we have some drugs that seem to work well in the general population, so you get something and you get this drug that everybody gets, but eventually if you can map everybody's genome out and see exactly what's going on in there, it's still not going to tell you exactly what treatment to do, but you can really tailor things to specific individuals on a scale that you cannot do right now.
Side
and
effects
that can be really
include nothing.
What's that?
Side effects include nothing.
Yeah, that's the hope, right? So I think that's going to be really big, and I think we can actually see that within our lifetimes.
I think personalized medicine will be successful on the level that there are 12 drugs that might work for you, and we're going to start you on one, and if it doesn't work, then you're going to come off of it, and there's going to be horrible side effects, and we'll start you on 2. And the personalized medicine might say, this is the one we should start first, this is the one we should start second, this is the one we should start third, to sort of reduce that, that sort of guessing check. I don't think that'll ever go away. There are complications above the level of the genes. A lot of drugs in the body are actually broken down by the microbiome, which is basically all of the stuff in your gut. And so you would probably also need to have some kind of genetic test for the bacteria in your gut, and then you would need to compare that to your own genetics. And the level of complication gets really big, but I think that there are some really sort of low-hanging fruit, some hints in there for how people should be treated. I'm going to give a couple people way back there who've been patient. Giants, is that Giants? Yep. Awesome.
I used to play a game called Nuggets on the Beach Walker game. Their main focus was this self-fighting deterrent for nuclear warfare. And they resurrected somebody's mind who supposedly would weigh every option there ever possibly was before launching a counter-strike on any country that actually struck first. I was just wondering, would it be possible to resurrect somebody's mind using some kind of technology like that?
So, like, from a corpse, if they were dead?
No, not like a corpse. Just like if you actually went through and researched every little thing that they used to do and just put that into a machine, would it be possible to even recreate that person's thought pattern at all?
So the question is, if you had tons of information about a person, could you build a piece of software